When a narcissist encounters someone with real strength, not just physical or verbal assertiveness, but internal resilience, confidence rooted in clarity and purpose, it instantly disrupts their need for control. Narcissists are addicted to the feeling of superiority, and in order to maintain that illusion, they seek out people who are easier to manipulate, emotionally dependent, or unaware of their value. But when someone walks into the room who knows who they are, who has a sense of identity that's not based on outside validation, that narcissist starts to feel the ground shift beneath them. They feel exposed, threatened, even powerless, because they realize they can't bend this person's will. They can't use the same tactics they've always relied on: guilt tripping, gaslighting, silent treatment, love bombing, because the strong individual sees it for what it is: manipulation. Control is the oxygen a narcissist breathes. It's not always loud or aggressive. Sometimes it's subtle, laced with charm and false humility. But make no mistake, every move is calculated. And when they meet someone immune to that control, someone who isn't swayed by their flattery or broken by their criticism, they panic. It's like trying to control the wind with your hands. The narcissist realizes, consciously or subconsciously, that their usual methods won't work. So they either escalate their tactics or start to retreat. But they will not just walk away quietly. First, they'll test your boundaries. Then they'll question your character. They'll challenge your confidence, not because it's flawed, but because it's unshakable. A strong person threatens the narcissist's carefully constructed world. You aren't desperate for their approval. You're not clinging to their attention. You're not reacting emotionally when they try to provoke you. That kind of composure drives them crazy, because the narcissist's entire game is about reaction. They thrive on emotional chaos, confusion, and codependence. But when you don't react the way they expect, you rob them of their power. It's not that they don't recognize your strength. They do, and that's exactly what makes them uncomfortable. They know they can't puppet you. They can't script your behavior. They can't make you play a role in their little drama. What you need to understand is that strength doesn't mean being loud or confrontational. It's not about dominating the conversation or flexing your ego. True strength is rooted in self-awareness, peace, discernment. A narcissist sees that as dangerous. They don't want people who think for themselves. They want followers, not leaders. They want people who will keep the spotlight on them. So when someone comes along who doesn't need their approval, who doesn't chase after them, who doesn't crack under pressure, that person becomes a mirror. And mirrors are dangerous to narcissists because they reveal the truth. They expose the cracks in the facade. That's when the narcissist starts shifting gears. They might try to break you subtly, criticize your tone, your dreams, your relationships, or they might retreat and play the victim, hoping to guilt you into coming back into their orbit. But nothing infuriates a narcissist more than someone who refuses to give up their power, not because they're not even playing the same game. That level of strength can't be controlled, and that's the one thing a narcissist can't handle. When someone carries a strong, confident presence, it naturally draws attention. People are drawn to authenticity, to the kind of quiet power that doesn't need to announce itself. Narcissists, however, don't see strength as something to admire. They see it as competition. And when they see someone who shines naturally, who doesn't rely on others for validation, they immediately feel insecure. That insecurity doesn't show up as humility. It shows up as subtle attacks, jealousy masked as jokes, backhanded compliments, or manipulative behavior designed to make that person question their own life. The narcissist's main goal isn't just attention, it's superiority. They don't just want to be seen, they want to be seen as better, more important, more valuable than anyone else in the room. So when your light enters their space, it disrupts that illusion. Your confidence becomes a threat. Your peace becomes offensive. Your ability to stand in your power without needing to dominate anyone makes them feel weak, and they can't handle that. Instead of growing themselves, instead of addressing their own insecurities, they go after your light. They try to dim it. It starts small. They might tell you that you're too confident, too intense, too ambitious, not because it's true, but because they want you to pull back. They want you to shrink so they can shine brighter. They'll tell you to be more humble or tone it down, but their definition of humility is really submission. They're not interested in balance. They want control. And they know that if they can get you to second guess your worth, they can start to manipulate the way you show up in the world. Because once you begin to doubt yourself, you're easier to mold. This dimming process is often disguised as concern or advice. They'll pretend they're just trying to help you be more realistic, or that they're protecting you from rejection or failure. But the truth is, they're afraid of what you might accomplish if you truly believed in yourself. They're afraid of the attention you might receive if you stop playing small. So they dress their criticism in concern, hoping you won't see the real motive behind it. It's not love, it's fear, it's competition, it's a desperate attempt to keep the spotlight on themselves. Narcissists don't thrive around people who know who they are. They thrive around people who are still searching, still unsure, still needing outside validation to feel secure. So when someone walks into their life with clarity and confidence, they feel powerless. That powerlessness turns into resentment, and that resentment shows up as sabotage. They might not do it loudly, it might not be obvious, but over time, their actions will try to chip away at the very qualities that make you shine. They'll try to confuse you, isolate you, make you doubt your impact. Because if they can't be the brightest in the room, they'll make the room darker. The more you glow, the more obvious their insecurities become. And rather than rise to meet you, they'll work to pull you down. Not because they hate you, but because your light exposes the shadows they're unwilling to face. It's not really about you. It's about what you represent. You represent freedom, authenticity, and a level of inner peace they don't know how to reach. And instead of learning from it, they try to destroy it. Not by force, but by erosion. One comment at a time, one look, one moment of silence, meant to make you question if you've gone too far or if you're asking for too much. Because to them, the only acceptable version of you is the one that stays beneath them, the one they could manage, control, and use as a mirror that flatters, not one that reflects their deepest insecurity. When a narcissist feels threatened by your strength, they don't go after what you do, they go after who you are. This is what makes their attacks so damaging and so effective if you're not aware of the game they play. They understand that actions can change, but identity is where your real power lies. So instead of criticizing your choices or decisions directly, they start attacking your character, your values, and your sense of self. Their goal is to make you question the foundation you stand on. Because if they can shake your identity, they can control your behavior. And if they can control your behavior, they can maintain their illusion of superiority. At first, their tactics may seem subtle. They might say things like, you always overreact, or you're so sensitive when you express your boundaries or call out disrespect. They'll make you feel like your emotional responses are flaws instead of signals. Over time, if you're not grounded, you begin to wonder, am I really too sensitive? Am I really overthinking everything? That doubt doesn't stay in the moment. It starts to plant seeds in your identity. Suddenly, you're not just second-guessing a conversation, you're second-guessing yourself. They don't stop at sensitivity. They'll attack your intentions. You might be coming from a place of love, honesty, or integrity, but they'll twist it. If you set a boundary, they'll say you're being selfish. If you express confidence, they'll call it arrogance. If you show ambition, they'll accuse you of being greedy or disloyal. These aren't casual insults. These are identity-targeted missiles. They want to make you feel like there's something wrong with who you are, not just what you're doing. That's how they gain the upper hand. Because once you start to question your character, they can rewrite your story and insert themselves as the hero or the victim. The manipulation becomes more dangerous the longer you stay in that dynamic. They'll start to isolate you from people who affirm your identity. Friends, family, mentors, anyone who reflects the truth about you becomes a threat to their narrative. So they'll either criticize those people or create conflict between you and them. The more you rely on the narcissist version of you, that's exactly what they want. Because now they're not just controlling how you see them, they're controlling how you see yourself. And the hardest part is they can do this without ever raising their voice. They can do it while smiling, while joking, while claiming they have your best interest at heart. That's why it's so easy to miss. But the damage shows up in your self-talk. Suddenly, you're not dreaming as big. You're not speaking up as often. You're apologizing for things you didn't do. You're over-explaining yourself. You're seeking permission instead of standing in conviction. That's not because you've changed your mind. It's because they've changed your mirror. When someone consistently targets your identity, it's not a misunderstanding, it's a strategy. Narcissists understand that the strongest people can't be broken by circumstance, but they can be confused into breaking themselves. And that's the game. Confuse you long enough that you dismantle your own strength, get you to internalize their voice so they don't have to control you anymore. You'll do it to yourself. The moment you start to believe you're too much, not enough, or fundamentally flawed, they've won. Not because you were weak, but because they convinced you to forget how powerful you truly are. The attack on your identity isn't accidental, it's intentional, and it's designed to keep you in a version of yourself that they can manage and manipulate. When you begin to realize that your strength is not the problem, everything starts to shift. Narcissists don't go after people who are broken, they go after people who are whole. They target people who have something they themselves are missing: confidence, compassion, integrity, vision. These qualities don't threaten everyone, but they deeply threaten a narcissist because your strength is a reflection of everything they're trying to fake. They create a mask of power, but you walk in the real thing. And real power, especially when it's quiet and rooted in self-assurance, makes them feel exposed. What they fear isn't your attitudes, your awareness. You know who you are. You don't need constant praise. You don't crumble under criticism. You make decisions without checking to see how it will feed someone else's ego. That's what triggers them. Narcissists don't want to deal with confident people because confident people aren't dependent. They can't be manipulated with compliments or controlled through guilt. So instead of admitting their own insecurity, they try to make your confidence look like the problem. They twist your strength into something negative. If you speak with clarity, they say you're confrontational. If you express boundaries, they say you're selfish. If you take care of yourself, they accuse you of being self-absorbed, not because any of those things are true, but because it gives them a way to manage their discomfort. They can't match your level, so they try to pull you down to theirs. It isn't about you being too much, it's about them feeling like they're not enough. Your light casts a shadow on everything they're trying to hide. Your peace reveals their chaos. Your self-worth reveals their insecurity, and your authenticity threatens their performance. They want you to doubt your strength because if you embrace it, they know they'll lose access to you. And narcissists survive on access, emotional access, mental access, energetic access. They want to be in your head, planting thoughts that make you question yourself. Because when you question yourself, you're easier to control. You'll start adjusting your behavior, softening your truth, shrinking your energy, just to make them feel comfortable. That's exactly what they want. Not a relationship, but regulation. They want to regulate your confidence so it doesn't make them feel small. But the truth is, your strength has nothing to do with them. You didn't develop resilience just to make someone else insecure. You didn't learn to speak up just to make someone feel overshadowed. You grew because you had to. You fought to find your identity. You chose healing over hiding, and that process created a version of you that doesn't fit into the box they built for you. That box was made for someone more compliant, more confused, more dependent on them for direction. But that's not who you are anymore, and they can't handle that. So they attack it, not directly because that would expose them, but indirectly through sarcasm, passive-aggressive comments, emotional withdrawal, or sudden criticism. The goal is to shake you just enough to get you back into that old version of yourself, the one who second-guessed everything, the one who waited for permission, the one who tolerated disrespect just to keep the peace. But once you see the pattern, you can break it. Once you understand that your strength in the issue, their insecurity is, you stop internalizing their reactions as truths. You stop believing that your voice is too loud or your confidence is too much. You start to realize that your strength was never the problem. It was the mirror that revealed theirs. There comes a moment when you realize that playing small serves no one, not you, not your purpose, not even the people who claim to love you. For far too long, people have been conditioned to believe that humility means shrinking, staying quiet, suppressing their brilliance so others don't feel uncomfortable. But that's not humility. That's fear dressed up in politeness. You were never meant to dim your light just to keep the peace. The gifts you've been given, the strength you've developed, the vision you carry, all of it is intentional, all of it is necessary. And when you fully step into it, when you decide to stop apologizing for your power, that's when everything begins to shift. People who are threatened by your light will try to convince you that you're being arrogant, selfish, too much, not because you are, but because your courage reminds them of their own hesitation. Your clarity reminds them of their confusion. Your purpose puts a spotlight on the fact that they're still wandering. Instead of doing the work to grow, they try to pull you back down to where they are. They'll say, don't change, or you've forgotten who you are, or when the truth is you've finally remembered who you've always been. Their discomfort isn't your responsibility, and making yourself smaller to make them feel better is not loyalty, it's self-betrayal. There is nothing noble about abandoning your calling to make insecure people feel secure. If your strength intimidates them, that's their lesson to learn, not your burden to carry. Purpose comes with weight. It comes with resistance. It comes with people misunderstanding you, judging you, distancing themselves because they no longer feel like they can control you. That's a sign you're on the right path. When you stop shrinking, you stop being easily manipulated. You stop settling for crumbs. You stop explaining your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And yes, it might get lonely, but the kind of loneliness that comes from growing is a lot better than the kind of crowd that comes to staying stuck. And the world doesn't need more watered down versions of powerful people. It doesn't need more silence when truth is necessary. It doesn't need more people hiding their talents, hoping to avoid jealousy or rejection. What it needs is more individuals who are unapologetically walking in the fullness of who they are. People who understand that boldness isn't arrogance, it's obedience. When you hold back, you're not just affecting your own life. You're impacting every person you were meant to influence, every life you were meant to touch, every change you were meant to create. Playing small doesn't just cost you, it costs the world. Okay? You don't need permission to show up fully. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. You don't need to tone yourself down to fit into rooms you've outgrown. The right people won't be threatened by your growth. They'll be inspired by it. They won't ask you to dim your light. They'll challenge you to shine even brighter. Your strength, your voice, your vision, they weren't given to you by accident. They're tools. And the moment you embrace them without apology is the moment you stop surviving and start leading. Because leading doesn't always mean being in front of a crowd. Sometimes it means standing alone, doing what's right, being fully yourself in a world that keeps telling you to be less. It means recognizing that the pressure you feel isn't a signal to retreat, it's a call to rise.